Oh, 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 yeah. Yeah. Wake up, roll out, I'm on it. Coffee in hand, got a plan, I can feel it. Life is good when I lean and start up right. Doing the work out of sight. Let's go, it's Mojo.
Let's
Life
go.
is best on Mojo Monday. Let's go. Yeah, I know. Set the tone and ride it all day. Mojo Monday. Fun and fired up.
Rick Hale, how are you, my friend?
Hey, it's Mojo Monday, man. It's our favorite day,
is.
right?
We got our own song now.
We've clearly arrived.
We've clearly arrived. We got our own song. Well, our topic today is AI going to make us dumber?
Oh.
Ouch. I don't know. We'll talk through it. However, trivia, man, did you know?
Yeah, who's the most famous American to ever walk on the planet from America, in America?
In America, like the perspective of.
And then we went, so in the spirit of the theme, it's AI driven. This is not opinion. This is, well, it is opinion, but it's AI's opinion. And it goes back to, am I smarter or dumber for having Googled or AI'd this? You don't Google anymore, right? I need to reframe my terminology.
All right. So let's talk about this. Is AI going to make us dumber? So, Rick, I think we got to start. Like, I think most people would agree you're a smart dude. I think most people would agree I have some level of intelligence. The question really is how did we get that way? How did you become smart?
Well, for starters, it's an interesting question because I was once early in my life on a date and I was particularly witty. Like I had one of those days where things were just humorous and flowing, and we all have those days. And at one point, she looks at me and says, "You're pretty witty. You must be really smart." And I have to confess, I think critical thinking clicked, showed up. And instead of, you know, gloating or I'm not, by the way, I don't. Here's the truth. I said, you know what? I'm not sure because that's a trick question. If you're truly intelligent, I think you recognize the gap between where you are and the ultimate highest peak of intelligence. So I think less intelligent people are probably more likely to claim intelligence. And the smarter I get, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah. But how'd you get there?
I mean, the same ways we shape any muscle in the body. I mean, the brain is just another version of a muscle. It's through experience. It's through, I love, the Dick Dillingham used to say, spend more time being cool. And it's not COOL, it's KOOL. It's a keen observer of life. So I think part of this experiential. And then another thing, John Maxwell once said, it's not about, life's greatest teacher is experience. He reframed it and added the word gauged. Life's greatest teacher is gauged experience. In other words, it's not about making the same mistake over and over, which we all define as insanity, but instead recognizing that didn't work, modify behavior, develop a new perspective, and then operate a little differently. That's how you become, in my humble opinion, wiser. So paying attention, being involved, being engaged. School didn't hurt, taught me how to think, taught me how to follow, a regimen and some discipline. I think
Yeah.
discipline facilitates intelligent growth.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the development of the human race, like obviously cavemen didn't read or write, but at some point in time, people started writing things. And let's go back to like the Wild West. Like there wasn't Google, there weren't encyclopedias, there certainly wasn't a library. I don't even think there was access to books. But they probably learned from their parents. They probably learned from maybe a school teacher. And at some point in time, the evolution of intelligence probably started in a classroom or the pass down of knowledge from generation to generation, right? But at some point in time, it sped up. And I can only speak to my experience. And I'm Gen X and I turned 50 this month, which is a whole
Whoop,
nother
whoop.
emotional thing. But I grew up and like we would go to the library and check out books. And I remember being a young child asking myself the question, like, what am I curious about? And then I would go find a book about that curiosity and I would read it. And we would go and seek information that way. And I remember very vividly my parents having I think it was Encyclopedia Britannica edition on the bookshelf at home, and you would research things in encyclopedias and stuff like that. And that
Hmm.
was how I interacted with knowledge, but it still had to come from some level of curiosity. You didn't just read an encyclopedia, right? Like you would go have a question or a curiosity and go seek that answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was your experience?
So I think that I think in historically people treat education as a resource tool or necessity. So we're talking about being curious, and not everybody's necessarily wired curious in lots of ways, in some ways, and maybe certain things resonate and others don't. The gift of like an Encyclopedia Britannica is you literally could flip the page, and if something slowed you down, you might not even know you were curious about how pyramids were, created and when, and it's literally a miraculous feat that they occurred because they lacked a lot of the tools and resources of modern engineering, and it's just astounding. And so, by the way, I want to add one more layer to intelligence. After I said what I did, I thought it occurred to me there's two types of intelligence, and this is really important. And maybe, listeners, stop and think, am I really intelligent or wise? It's not about brain power because we only use a small fraction of the brain. So anyone who exercises the full capacity, which is a near impossibility, could probably outrun anyone on the planet. But there's IQ and EQ. And so, maybe today's conversation is also about, does AI make you dumber, but can AI improve your EQ, your emotional quotient, your capacity to relate and connect to people? IQ is raw intelligence. That's great for trivial pursuit. EQ
Yeah.
is great for connecting with people. And I don't know about you, but that skill, that capacity, that depth of personality and character can really move mountains when it comes to achievement.
Now I'm going back to your date, wondering would Rick have gone to AI and said, "How do I ask this girl out? How do I approach her
I don't know.
really and be funny and get her to accept my proposal to go to dinner?" We didn't have that tool, Rick.
Yeah, I don't want to freak you out, but one day, what if AI is so good you don't need to ask people on dates? Like you just get
Uh-huh.
your, emotional fulfillment from a relationship with a robot, for gosh sakes. That's kind of a scary reality.
Well, I bit my brain's going, and we obviously didn't script this
It
entire.
kind of got weird, didn't it?
Yeah, it got weird, but I'm thinking like the young single person right now, their AI experience in social experiments. Like how do I craft a conversation at dinner that's interesting and what are you know what I mean? Like back then, our experience was figure it out, right? And I guess the question is AI going to move society forward or is AI going to move society dumber? And from an intelligence standpoint, and you know, the I think this connection between curiosity, critical thinking, and intelligence is very prevalent in all eras of time, right? Like you had to be curious even back in the day to figure out information, and then you had to develop a critical thinking skill so that you really had this ability to interact with society, right?
It's experiential for sure. And the question is AI the ultimate efficiency tool so that you find yourself sooner, or do you lose yourself at a higher, greater magnitude of where you don't, in other words, it's almost like it could create an additional layer to this, I believe, already current social crisis that we're living in, of doom scroll and, false presentation. And, reality doesn't usually show up in social media. People don't buy that. It's not entertaining. It's not, it doesn't hold you there long enough to then try to sell you something. So my fear is false identity and perspective, that instead of, to your point, that we self-develop and evolve as humans, tripping over things and stumbling through it. I think it almost, you almost have the capacity to script who you are without actually fact checking your subconscious brain and your heart and soul. And
Yeah.
so I got deep again, but this is a
Well,
real,
let's
it's
go
a,
forward. So there's babies being born every day, right? Like there's the next generation always. That's always a prevalent thing in the world. And how are they going to develop critical thinking? How are they going to get smart? What do you think?
I mean, it's still going to be experiential because you have to wake up and go feed yourself at some point, and you have to, I assume we go to school, but even the construct of school could change with AI over time when you have your personal teacher that knows all subjects and you just dial up your teacher on your monitor. I mean, I've sort of fast forwarded. It's the Jetsons kind of had some things figured out back in this. They were talk about ahead of their time. Those that are old enough
Yeah.
to remember the cartoon The Jetsons, man, their efficiency and their robotic support team, fascinating that this isn't a new concept. It's just it took technology that much time to evolve to actually
Yeah.
become functionally useful.
Well, I think I don't know that the libraries, the experience I had with the library doesn't seem like the same experience the younger generation is having with the library right now. The experience I had with encyclopedias is not the same. I don't even know that people still have encyclopedias.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something of that almost defining me as old. Um, but
Well,
the
you're
question
50.
is,
Come on.
like, how do people generate critical thinking skills? And I think that AI has the ability to diminish that or improve that. Meaning, I could use AI just to give me answers so I don't have to do critical thinking. I don't want to think about it, just tell me the answer.
Yeah.
I just need to pass the test. I don't need to learn the information. I just need to memorize it to pass it. AI could go, here's the answers, memorize these, pass your test, right? Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just going to add one thing. So you mentioned going to the library, and the library's what a it's like the world at your fingertips, and it's all things and nothing at the same time. The experience is very unidirectional. You have to reach up and grab a certain book. Hopefully, it's the right book, and hopefully, it serves the right purpose in that moment. And what AI, I think over time, we're talking about, does it make you dumber? I think it has the capacity to coach you through cues and responsiveness that'll create another layer of thinking. So I'm going to take the positive path, not the detrimental,
I agree.
lose
I
lose
agree.
your identity. Like I was researching. Example: I have a guitar. It's an electric guitar and it has certain pickups in it that I like, but I don't love. And I thought, man, this guitar is beautiful. And if only it had this certain pickup. By the way, pickups are like the microphone, and that's what amplifies and sends the signal to an amplifier. And so you can put different types in, and it'll sound different, even in the same wooden body and the same strings. And I was researching. I said, AI. I said, I have this guitar and I play this style music, what are the ideal pickups and that I should consider? And to my surprise, it did tell me, but it also prompted, do you play live music? Do you use a digital or a tube amplifier? It asked me questions that I hadn't even thought were kind of relevant. I mean, I knew they were, but didn't really posture because I wouldn't. So there's an example where it didn't make me dumber, it made me smarter because now I've layered the application and I've also then I can ask for efficiency and where, how much what's involved and what are the detriments versus, the opportunity in making this change in pickups. And it led me down a path that it was a thoughtful conversation.
Well, I think that's really important, Rick, because 2 years ago, you might have Googled the same question in Google and gotten somebody's video or opinion or a website of somebody's op-ed of how they thought through that question. But the fundamental difference, AI asked you questions.
Hmm.
And I believe that experience will change critical thinking of the future.
It will.
Meaning, because Google didn't ask us questions,
No. It's
AI
back to
asked
that
us
one.
questions.
It's back to that comment I made earlier, like going to the library. It's very one dimensional.
Yeah. So there's a chance AI can make us even smarter. And Rick, I realize there's a bias to this, right? Like AI learns us, and I think people have been playing with that over the last year or so, going, "Hey, what's your opinion of me here?" But based on what I've asked you, what is important to me, or it's starting to learn us, so it's creating a bias around us, um, and
Hmm.
our experiences shape our future experience when it has that information. It knows that you're a musician. It knows that you like rock music. It knows that you like to play live music. You know what I mean? It's starting to create a bias around you.
So I'll add one more layer. I asked another unrelated but similar question days later. This question, by the way, goes the question about pickups in my guitar were 2 weeks old. I asked a different question, but in the same realm. I don't remember the exact question, but it answered it. And then it said, would you like me to go back to our original conversation as a reference point? And I'm like, holy cow. It's paying attention and it has infinite exact memory. Like it was a faded thought on my in my world, and it's like, yeah, I got that stored. File B3.
Wow. Well, I
Uh-huh.
think our experiences, our bias, is certainly going to play a factor in here, but no different than the library did before. If I was interested in cars, for example, and I checked out books and cars, that still was a biased experience. I would seek out that information. AI is just going to make it go faster.
Well, and to be honest, the source is biased. Like even in Encyclopedia Britannica, as much as we'd like to think that those were all facts, reality is a human somewhere or a collection of humans all had to come to an agreement about what to publish.
Yep.
And so the speed of interpretation, the speed of resolve with a query, and its ability to go fact check multiple sources, in theory, AI should be better and more accurate. And if it triggers deeper thoughts and questions, then I would agree that it makes you smarter. If the risk is that a certain percentage of the world is going to take it at face value and fact, and that's dangerous. And I don't know that it'll ever be all purposefully perfect, but right now it's probably the riskiest it'll ever be.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, who's behind the curtain, follow the money. You ever heard those sayings?
Yeah.
So somebody's creating this, just like Encyclopedia Britannica. Now they're using tools and resources and merging far more data, still subject to their interpretive bias and exactly how they, if you change a word in the question, you might get a completely different answer.
Yeah. Well, all right. So think about society over time. So people, out of curiosity, invented electricity. They invented the cars. They invented bicycles. The curiosity was a question that they asked, and then that curiosity caused society to move forward. Sometimes backwards, but sometimes forward too, right? But you go way, way back. Like the Greek philosophers would sit around and ask themselves questions, and they would, I can only imagine, sit around the Roman bath or the coffee shop in Italy or wherever,
Coffee
and
shop.
have these conversations, right? But they were asking very profound questions, and those profound questions cause society to move forward. What I actually believe is AI is going to train us to ask better questions. And if we learn how to ask better questions, I believe society moves forward. And I believe the critical thinking actually becomes greater. And I trust in humanity that every generation that follows becomes smarter and more advanced. And I just can't imagine something like AI making the next generation go backwards.
Yeah. But if each of these tools, you know, you've got Gemini, Perplexity, Chat, um, Claude, which I've got all of them loaded up, by the way, now. I've now got subscriptions and I'm testing against each other. There's 60 potentially billions in each one.
Yeah.
They've got to get a return on investment. These are companies. This isn't like some, you know, totally non-attached
Free resource.
entity. Yeah, it's this
Yeah.
is not, you know, chat's supposed to be the closest to open source, and at some point there's got to be an ROI. So my advice today is go experiment and start asking better questions and then let it feed you, additional thought-provoking layers of questions and just get comfortable with the concept because you might actually create some enlightenment, but also recognize that it's risky to take it at face value and then go across, cross pollinate your systems to see how they like develop an opinion. I think when you said, are you smart or intelligent? That's what intelligence is. It's analyzing reality, realizing reality is sometimes distorted, and then overlaying those realities and forming a sincere internal opinion before a machine tells you.
So today, what question are you going to ask AI?
Well, the question today is who was the most famous of all Americans?
Okay,
That's the
tell me.
question. The answer was George Washington,
I'm not
statesman,
surprised.
orator,
Yeah.
warrior. He fought in the revolution. He certified badass.
But hang on. When you asked it the question, you gave an answer first of what you thought it was going to be. What was your answer?
Well, I said because I didn't frame it as American,
Hang on. What was your answer?
Jesus.
No, no, you had a second answer. Sorry.
You're gonna have to feed it back to me, man.
You said Elvis.
Oh, I did.
You said Elvis.
But because here's the thing, back to your point, the quality of the
Bias.
question will create the quality of the answer. And I was thinking pop culture. I wasn't thinking, origin of our country, shallow me. So there's a
Yeah.
good example of it making me maybe, I don't know if smarter is the right word, but it calibrated the question and helped me get clearer on what I was really seeking. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I did. I forgot. The first question, though, if you remember, was who's the most famous person to ever walk the earth? And Jesus Christ was the first answer. And then you said, well, let's talk about America. What would that be? And then that's where I espoused Elvis has got to make the list. And by the way, Elvis did make the list a few notches below, like MLK. There were a few people that were clearly legendary influencers and leaders. But by the way, the most admired popped up as Abe Lincoln for emancipation and his forward thinking and impact on the world and society. So fascinating. And
Yeah. Well, I was
better
going
the question, better the
the
answer.
reason I wanted you to say Elvis because I think you have a bias. You're a
Oh,
musician.
you think? You think I like music?
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, I hope our conversation today was enlightening, one, and two. I hope what you hear is I don't think AI is going to make us dumber. I think it could if you lose your critical thinking. And your critical thinking is where your intelligence is built. And more importantly, the challenge for all of us, and it's been an age-old challenge even before AI, is how do we ask better questions? That's
mhm,
what moves us forward,
that is. Yeah,
especially today, Rick.
because it's Mojo Monday.
Yes, it is, baby.
We love you
Hey,
guys.
how you
Appreciate you
doing? Little
tuning in.
spark in your step, now it's moving. Every call, every smile, every you got
For the
this.
song.
We're impacting the
Thank you,
world, can't
AI.
miss. Let's go,
Made
it's
it.
Mojo. Life is
Co-created.
best on Mojo
That's
Monday.
next week.
Let's go.
At what point did you
Yeah, I
create or
know.
it create?
Set the tone and ride it all
You
day.
had to ask a good question.
Mojo
I
Monday.
did.
Fun and fired up. I'm on my way. Let's go. It's Mojo. Life is best on Mojo Monday. Every day, new chance to shine. Stacking up the little